There was once a country which was terrorized by a cruel giant. He took what he wanted and wrecked other things because he enjoyed that. He injured or killed the people who tried to stop him. He lived in a secret place so that no one could sneak up on him. A boy named Jack lived with his mother on a little plot of land in that country. When Jack was still a baby, his father had gone away to fight the giant and never returned. Jack and his mother managed a simple existence through the years by growing a garden and caring for a few chickens. They also had a cow. The milk from that cow and the sale of a calf each year made the difference between life and death for them. Then came a drought, when no rain fell for months, and the garden withered and died. The chickens starved and were eaten one by one. Too soon Jack and his mother had only their precious cow left. One morning Jack's mother said, "Jack, you must take Brownie to town and sell her. We need money to buy food. I trust you to get the best price that can be had." On the way to town, Jack met a man who wanted to know where Jack was going with the cow. After Jack had explained the situation to him, the man offered to buy Brownie. Jack asked the man how much he was offering to pay. "Not money, young fellow, but the chance of a lifetime," the man said. "A magic bean from the tomb of Serenia, the enchantress of Boadicea. A magic bean full of wonder and delight. A magic bean that will change your life forever." His mother was waiting anxiously for his return, and she hurried out of the house when she saw him approaching. She met Jack in the yard and asked him how things had gone. Feeling very proud of himself, Jack showed her the magic bean. He expected her to be as excited as he was about the trade that he had made. "Oh, no, Jack! How could you? Oh, how could you? What will we do? What will we do?" she said. Then she began to cry, and she grabbed the bean and threw it down on the ground in despair. There was nothing for supper that night. Jack lay on his pallet looking at the moon and stars through the window, and listening to his mother crying quietly in her bed. In the morning, Jack was dumbfounded at what he saw in the yard. Where his mother had thrown the bean down, there now stood a gigantic bean vine. It reached up to the clouds and disappeared into them. Taking a hollow gourd filled with water to drink, Jack started to climb that stalk. There were tender young bean pods on the stalk, so now and then he could pick one to eat. He climbed and climbed and climbed and then climbed some more. About the middle of the morning, Jack came to where the stalk went through a hole in the clouds, so he climbed on through them. Coming out on top of the clouds, he found himself in a completely different world. The only sign of people that he saw was a house not very far away. The house was very large, with huge doors and windows, and the steps were as high as Jack's head. The front door was open to allow in a breeze, so Jack scrambled up the steps and tiptoed inside. Jack found himself in a hall with doors on each side. He could hear sounds coming from one of the doors. He moved quietly forward and peeked around the door jamb. It was the cruel giant. He was seated at a table with stacks of gold pieces arranged in front of him. He was hammering an egg of solid gold into a flat coin. On the table in a cage was a hen. As Jack watched, the hen cackled and laid another gold egg. The giant raised his head and sniffed the air. His face grew angry, and he roared, "Fee, fi, fo, fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he live or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to bake my bread." You see, the giant had never been to school, so he thought all normal-sized people were from England. Jack ran down the hall looking for a place to hide. In one room he saw piles of gunny sacks. He quickly hid among them, hoping that the smell of the old sacks would mask his scent from the giant. The giant came into the room and moved some of the sacks around. "Fee, fi, fo, fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he live or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to bake my bread." Jack huddled down and shivered with fright, wishing that he had taken a bath so that he didn't smell English. The giant didn't find Jack in the pile of sacks, and he left the room. Jack could hear him crashing and roaring in other parts of the house. At long last he quieted down, and finally Jack thought that he could hear the giant snoring. Jack crawled out from under the sacks. Taking a sack with him, he crept down the hall. In one room he saw the giant napping. Jack went on as silently as he could to the room with the hen. The hen was still in the cage on the table. Jack crossed the room, climbed up the giant's chair, and onto the table. The hen watched him with suspicion. He opened the cage, grabbed the hen, and began to stuff her into the sack. The hen squawked and struggled. Jack heard the giant coming. He closed the neck of the sack, threw it over his shoulder, and ran to the open window at the end of the table. Slipping through the bars, he dropped to the ground. Some nearby bushes hid Jack from the giant's view when he came to the window. "I'll catch you! You'll never get away from me!" the giant snarled. "I'll catch you and eat you! I'll suck the marrow from your bones, Englishman!" Keeping low and in the bushes, Jack ran toward the beanstalk. The giant came quickly out of his house, roaring angry, thrashing around in the bushes, glaring about, searching for the scoundrel who had taken his priceless hen. Just as Jack reached the vine, the giant spied him. Jack tied the sack to his belt and started down. The giant thundered toward him, howling and crashing through the brush. Sliding, falling, grabbing, clutching, and scrambling, Jack went down the beanstalk as fast as he could. The giant was coming down too, but not as fast. The leaf and pod stems were barely strong enough to support his weight, and he had to move much more carefully. Nearing the ground, Jack began to yell, "Mother! Mother! Get the axe! Quick! Get the axe, Mother!" He saw her come from the house with an axe in her hands. As soon as Jack reached the ground, he grabbed the axe and he began to hack and hew the base of the stalk. "Oh, hurry, Jack, hurry," his mother urged. He chopped far enough into the beanstalk that it began to topple. Up above, the giant screamed and fell through the air, spinning down toward the ground. In years to come, a favorite spot with the local folk was the great hole in the ground made by the giant when he hit. It filled with water and became a very pleasant place for picnics, fishing, and swimming. As for Jack and his mother, their immediate problems were solved by the hen's gold eggs. Jack was as generous and kind as he was lucky and brave, and he became one of the most beloved and respected men in the country. And of course, he was a rich hero to boot.